Hello! How is everybody? As you can see, despite the heat wave, I am trying to keep you entertained with my innovations in the videos. First of all, thank you very much for the person who helped me innovate and to all those who gave me feedback and thought this was a good idea. It's the first time, so I know it's not going to be perfect. Don't be too hard on me. My name is Maria de Almeida. I am psychoanalyst, so if you have any questions about videos or therapy, send me a message. You have all my contact details online. In my previous videos, I have talked to you about mental health disorders, very common, which can impact our body, mainly anxiety and depression. Today, I wanted to talk about a, let's say, less famous, but very common mental health disorder, which is neurasthenia. I know, but that name, you don't know it. But what if I told you chronic fatigue syndrome? That sounds right. So, when Freud was studying anxiety and anguish, he separated anxiety neurosis, anxiety, from neurasthenia, from chronic fatigue syndrome. These two mental health disorders are not opposite because they are different, but it's true that their main symptoms are quite opposed. Let's have a look at that. Remember, when we were talking about anxiety, we were seeing that the functions were like exaggerated. It was this tachycardia, hyperventilation, my hands are sweating, I have very quick ideas that hit my mind with the feeling that I'm going crazy, diarrhea. It's like there was too much energy that cannot be freed. So that you understand, in order for the psychic apparatus to work, there has to be a minimum level of energy. What happens with people who suffer from chronic fatigue syndrome? If we have zero tension in the system, the apparatus system cannot work. It's like we were dead. And what happens with people who suffer from neurasthenia, from chronic fatigue syndrome, is that their threshold is very low. So for these people, it's very difficult to accumulate the level of energy minimum required to perform their daily activities. Why is that? Because for them, it's difficult to process the stimulus psychically, so they process everything physically. We will see it later with an example. So, what are the main symptoms of chronic fatigue syndrome? As the name indicates, it would be tiredness. However, it's a very typical tiredness. It's tiredness that is not related to physical activity, does not improve with sleep. These people are all the time tired. Another very typical symptom would be constipation. Constipation which does not relate only to their digestive tract. These people tend to have a personality in which for them is very strange that they give away before they receive. Why are these people all the time so tired? Remember, when we were talking about depression, I told you it's not that they don't have energy. I told you when we were talking about depression that we all have a psychic energy called libido that in order to be healthy needs to be moving all the time. The problem in depression, it was that the libido was stuck in the fight between the love object and the ego. What is the problem of people who suffer from chronic fatigue syndrome? Well, their problem is that they cannot accumulate the necessary energy to perform the daily activities. They need to be free in the energy all the time. They don't tolerate any excitement. This is very easy to understand with an example that I know you won't like, which is masturbation. And because I know you don't like it, and it's not only related to sexual life, I'm going to give you another example. Students that have an exam. They need to study, so they sit in front of their notes, but the minute they are reading their notes, they go on their phones, they wake up to the fridge, then they go to the toilet, so the evening ends, and of course, they haven't studied for the exam. This doesn't happen only to young people. It can happen to any adult. For example, now we are working from home. You sit in front of the laptop. You begin to write an email. Then you decide you go to see what your son is doing. Then you sit down again, but this time you go on Facebook. Then you go on the news. You see, the day ends, and of course you are exhausted, but you haven't achieved much. So because of that reason, these people unfortunately tend to have a very poor life. And all this is because they cannot accumulate the energy needed to perform the activities. Another difference between neurasthenia and anxiety, or let's say, yes, difference, is that, for example, in anxiety, the fear is in the outside world. I'm going to give you a very bold example. Now, with coronavirus, maybe someone will say, oh, I'm not going to open the restaurant even when it's what I want to do because no one will come, they will be scared of being infected. So, because of coronavirus, this person is scared that that exterior reality will impact on his business. What would happen with someone who is suffering from neurasthenia, from chronic fatigue syndrome, is that the doubts are in themselves. For them, the problem is that they don't have the skills, the availability to perform the activities they want to perform. In this case, it would be like, oh no, I want to open a restaurant, but I can't open a restaurant because I won't be able to get any customers, I won't be able to serve them, I won't be able to get a nice menu. So all the doubts are in themselves. They have very low autoesteem. I think I have already told you a lot. I don't want to make it very complicated. And of course now I'm going to talk to you a bit very quickly about the treatment. And the treatment is, of course, psychoanalysis. Why is that? And another quick difference, in hysteria, the symptoms can be interpreted as dreams. In this case, in neurasthenia, the chronic fatigue syndrome, the issue is that the person needs to learn to joy in a different way. It's about mobilizing the energy and put it in the right place, in reality. I hope you enjoyed this new video. Don't be too hard on me, please. Thank you. Bye!